So in Tech in Asia, we are an online community for Asia's tech ecosystem. So whether you're an investor, you're an entrepreneur, or you're an aspiring entrepreneur, we want to be the best resource for you. So on our website at www.techinasia.com, you can see the latest trends and news on Asia's tech ecosystem. You can also search and research on investors and startups within this region. So of course, if you'd like to contribute an article, we also have this thing called community post, where you can have an Ask Me Anything thread or just share anything that you find interesting around this region. So of course, offline, we also have a lot of events for you to connect with each other, in person. So apart from local meetups such as this one, we also have our main conferences in Tokyo, Singapore, and Jakarta that is attended by more than 2,000 people. So today's event would not be possible if not for our partner. So let's welcome Roland from CoCoon to share a word with us. Roland, please.
Thank you, Alicia. I'll make this short and sweet so we get to the program. I'm Roland, I'm from CoCoon. Thank you very much for showing up. And thank you again, despite the delay, and thank you for Tech in Asia for bringing this great program here to Hong Kong, the Tour Tokyo. And of course, thank you to Jonathan of Brink and Mark of Ace & Company to be here at the judging panel today. So all of us are just here to have a good time, see some companies, and talk to each other and network. So hope you all enjoy the evening. Thank you.
So if you want to know more about CoCoon's activities, do check out their website at hkcocoon.com. Okay. So before we jump into our pitches, we'll start with a panel discussion. Let's welcome our judges on stage.
Hello. Test.
Okay, so today we're going to discuss on the topic of how to build a world-class startup in Hong Kong. So before that, let's do a short introduction of who you are, what do you do, or what do you invest in, type of startups you look for in check sites.
So in case you didn't hear me the first time around, I'm the investment director here at CoCoon. The way to think about this platform is that there are three main disciplines that we focus on. First is events, such as this one. Second is education, working with universities to educate students on what entrepreneurship means. And third, which is a newly developed arm, is investments, which is what I look after. So we don't have any particular vertical industry we like to look at. We provide seed capital to companies anywhere in the world, and we look at teams, and we look at great, big, difficult ideas with awesome solutions, and that guides our investment decision.
Cool. Thanks, Roland. My name is John. I'm the venture associate for Brink. Brink is an Internet of Things acceleration platform. We're started here in Hong Kong last year. We have 3 offices between Hong Kong, Shenzhen, and Guangzhou. And so my role as venture associate is to be the first point of contact for anyone seeking Brink investment or acceleration. So we basically take teams from a very early stage, pitch deck or business plan, and walk them through the entire product development process. So that when you exit the program, you have a product that's shipping, it's on store shelves, and people are using it on a day-to-day basis. So typically we come in with a check size of 25,000 USD. We execute a crowdfunding campaign, and we aim to raise roughly about 200,000 on crowdfunding. And then so we come in with additional co-investors to ensure that you can complete your project and get through. And generally speaking, that means co-investors come in at around 100 to 200,000 USD.
Oh, great. Well, thanks a lot for inviting us, Roland. So I'm Mark. I'm the managing director of Ace & Company here in Hong Kong. So Ace & Company is a global investment platform focused on direct investments. We invest anywhere from very early stage to late stage investments. We have 5 offices worldwide, so we're a global firm. Our headquarters is in Switzerland. We have an office in the UK, in London, one in New York, one also in Africa and Egypt, and in Hong Kong, obviously. So we invest in early stage companies going from $100,000 to a couple of million, and in late stage companies up to 50 million maximum. So we actually help a lot of companies, especially in terms of cross-border, so helping companies either relocate in terms of business development strategy. We're minority investors, and we team up with other co-investment companies which are specialists in their fields. So that's really our angle.
Okay, so I think you mentioned about solving a tough problem, having a good team, and I think you mentioned about investing in seed stage. So what do you think is the necessary ingredient in building a world-class startup? Like how can you tell with a pitch deck or when you do like early stage investment? How do you tell?
So I guess the three P's of any seed stage investment is people, product, pitch. Framed differently, you have to answer the questions: why you, why this, why now, right? And actually, why now is a really important part of it, and it's often overlooked because they actually did studies on which characteristics are the most important for a company to succeed, and timing stood out as being the most highly correlated with success. Everything else is still important: your team, your idea, your product, your execution. But without the right timing, it's really hard to make it work.
And on that timing point, that relates to the type of problem and how it's been addressed and solved previously, and how, as a culture, how you approach anything in your life will matter a lot to see whether the solution that you're trying to provide will be adopted by a lot of people. So oftentimes, I would say, don't let technology cloud the vision you're trying to do, because that will continue morphing. But the problem, the big problems, will always be there, and that's the stuff we're trying to address.
Yeah, I think a lot of things have been said. What we look a lot is in terms of management. So, because the problem is we all think we have the next best idea. The reality, most of the time, it's the demon is in the detail, as we say. So execution is absolutely key. So we usually look at, to invest in either people or companies who have kind of a track record. So serial entrepreneurs or people who have had a track record of actually building companies. That's quite key for us.
Okay, so let's talk about Hong Kong. So you mentioned about having timing, making sure that it's a good problem to solve, and also people. So with your experiences globally, in China, in London, or basically in the region or that kind of, so what's so special about Hong Kong? Why are you here? Why are you also here?
Yeah, let me take a jab at this. I think a lot of places in Asia are trying to reproduce what we call the Silicon Valley kind of feeling. So Singapore's trying it, Hong Kong, we've seen some efforts in Japan as well. I think Hong Kong definitely offers a few things which we believe is attractive. One is, obviously, Hong Kong is a global financial place, and probably today, apart from New York and London, is really the financial hub for Asia in general. So you find a lot of, I would say, talents in terms of hiring, whether it's for startups or even if it's for the VC community. I think the human resources element is really an important part. The second one is, I think, infrastructure, which Hong Kong definitely has. I mean, I think there still needs to be probably some expansion there and efforts from the government to create that environment. And thirdly, I think, the proximity. So Hong Kong is, I think, in an optimal place between Southeast Asia and North Asia, where it caters, I think, to a lot of individuals in terms of logistics also. So I think that combination, if you've used efficiently, can provide this kind of ecosystem which we need to reproduce this kind of element of Silicon Valley. And I think what we've seen now also in terms of education, universities, Hong Kong definitely has a fantastic education place to provide talent for hiring.
Yeah, I think Mark really hit it on the nose and on the target when he said about the location, and he also said about the efficiency of the developed nature of Hong Kong. In addition, I do want to throw in that IP protection over here is very important as well as specific verticals which seem to suit Hong Kong very well. And these include like hardware and fintech. So for Brink, since we focus only on Internet of Things, which is a combination of hardware and software, there's no other place in the world that you really want to manufacture a product other than just what's across the border north of you. However, you do want the tax efficiency, the scalability, the internationalization, the efficiency of Hong Kong to start in the early stages, and then when you manufacture, you go to Shenzhen, and then when you're ready to scale, you go into the market where your key target market is going to be, right? So if that means you want to sell to the US, you probably want a US office at some point when you're ready for that, right? When you're ready to go big.
I think I agree with everything John and Mark are saying, and one key thing why we're doing this is because we love Hong Kong. So I'm from here, our team's from here, a lot of us have a root here, and what drives us and what drives all the work with all our friendly partners is we really want to reignite the entrepreneurial spirit of Hong Kong, because this is what Hong Kong was built on. The global financial center, all the connections with Shenzhen and manufacturing, it came from last generation's entrepreneurs who took advantage of this geography, this financial system, legal system stability to really build. So all we hear now is trying to revisit and reignite that spirit that we already have, but adapt it and apply it to this new technology environment. And so with that, it doesn't take, it certainly will not take just one platform or one team. It requires everyone's buy-in.
So just now I think you mentioned about timing and also product. So what's the timing for Hong Kong now? What is it hot now? What are some worthy problems that Hong Kong founders should look at to solve?
I'll take a quick step on this one. I always like to address or take a look at the culture of people living here and how that may differ from people in Singapore or New York. Even as simple as when you talk to someone, you tell them about an app. Next thing, like in the middle of the conversation, they pull out their phone and they're already downloading it and trying to figure out how they can use the app. So the question I would pose, and I'm very serious, is if people know Chiok, so a butcher in Hong Kong, I mean, not to categorize them, but whatever idea you have, whatever problem that you want to solve, are you solving it for the type of people that Hong Kong are, the culture? Would a butcher use your solution? If you have a service-based type solution, do all your end users have smartphones? It's a culture, and we're slowly changing, but certainly isn't the same culture as Singapore or Silicon Valley. And I think that's something to really look into when you're out trying to test your product in Hong Kong. Not to say this is your only market, but you need to recognize that and decide how you want to scale, either through Hong Kong or elsewhere.
Yeah, I think Rowan hit it on the head, and I think he's really alluding to the passion, to the problem that you're trying to solve. Don't let the macroeconomic factors influence you too much. At the end of the day, you have to do what you know best and what you really want to work on, because it's going to take a lot of grit and perseverance for you to succeed. And if you're not passionate about it, it's difficult to go far by definition. That said, Brink is focusing on Internet of Things, and we focus on hardware. And so we're kind of a startup too, but we're relatively new to the scene. And so we understand and we foresee that IoT will be a big thing, and we want to help realize that. And we're helped by knowing that we're not the only ones doing this. I mean, Hackcelerator has been doing this for a long time. PCH up north is also working on the same problem. Bolt in Boston. We're not afraid to mention them because they're kind of the pioneers and they've been leading this charge. And we're just trying to add more value to this process. So at the end of the day, I mean, given the location, given Shenzhen, given manufacturing, given that sensors are cheap, battery life is longer, BLE takes no energy at all, it's really easy to build your own devices and then add software on top.
Yeah, I think what you can probably add to that is that you have to take advantage of what the city has to offer, right? So I think here, a lot of companies are now, especially with today, everything being mobile, everything being so easy. I mean, today it costs, probably $5,000 to create a startup, whereas probably 10 years ago it was close to $500,000. So, all of that coupled with what the city offers today, the fact that it's global, you have to take advantage of the fact that, you find excellent labor here, probably, a tenth of the cost in other cities in developed markets. You have, Shenzhen, like you mentioned, which is next door for manufacturing. So you really have to think, okay, how can Hong Kong make the most sense for my type of startup, or should I actually be doing this in another city? So I think you have to have passion for your idea for sure, but then really think, well, does it make sense? And we've seen it. We've seen actually quite a few startups from the US relocate here for exactly those reasons.
Okay, so we're done with that overview kind of question. Now let's drill down to the micro level. So what do you think that Hong Kong founders lack? And what do they need to improve on?
There's a lot. You want to start first? I heard this from someone else, but I completely agree with it. And I'm going back to the culture point again. Your failure is your badge of honor. Wear it, talk about it, go out there and teach. I'm going to make a big assumption to think that a lot of typical mindset here is failure is be shameful of, and you do it privately. So what they lack is doing it publicly and going out there and saying, I failed 4 times, but that's what makes me awesome.
I want to spin this around a little bit and talk about what the ecosystem seems to be lacking, and that's the mentorship, right? And I think that also reflects back on the entrepreneurs that have made it, maybe, and a little bit on the people that can, help each other out. Because a mentor doesn't necessarily have to be someone that has IPO'd. It could be just someone else that also did a startup. But because maybe it roots back to what Roland was saying, like if you feel like you don't want to talk about your failures, you don't really have an opportunity to offer the advice that you learned from it, and then people don't get a chance to basically learn by extension through your experience, right? So I think if we can just, think a little bit more about how we can cultivate a sense of community and mentorship within Hong Kong, it would help facilitate the information flow to improve the efficiency of future entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I'm going to try to tie a bit the two together. So both of what they said is correct. I think it goes even a bit further. And it's a question about the chicken and the egg story, where we lack mentorship because Hong Kong has no real history of understanding how to invest in startups. There's no full community of investors. There's no startup community as there would be in the US or in Israel, for example. So definitely there's a lot of improvement to do there, and it will come. On the other hand, I think what some of the founders, or I would say the CEOs of the companies lack is usually that know-how of how to pitch. How do I have to go about and raise money? Is my idea really the next best thing? And the Americans are fantastic at that. They're the best marketers in the world, and that's why they raise a lot more money than any other country. So I think it's a combination of those two.
Okay, so speaking of fundraising, what is the best way for a founder to get monetary resources, or how do they pitch to you?
Well, as I always say, I don't think nobody should be scared of coming up. We look at over 800 deals a year, and we're happy to look at any pitch. We never say a deal is crap. There's no such thing. If you have a good idea and a sound business plan, we're happy to have a look at it. I think a lot of people go first and say, okay, I'm going to raise whatever, some money from friends and family, etc. Which is usually, we say, not necessarily the best way to do it, for the simple reason that you're on the hook. They want special terms. You can't really develop, and suddenly you have to actually go into another way. You can't really develop your business plan because it's friends and family, and they're actually telling you what to do. There's a lot of ways to go about it. Incubators, CoCoon is a good example, and I think we'll be seeing more and more of these initiatives in Hong Kong, and we've been seeing them over the past few years. People should reach out. Social media, don't hesitate to tell the world what you're doing and why it's great. And there's something else. I think today, with the low cost of actually being able to produce a minimum viable product, just do it. Do it and show what you can actually do, and that will attract in itself, I think, a lot of interested parties.
So at Brink, by the way, that was really good, Mark. I'm not going to repeat anything. But at Brink, we encourage three things. Number one is that you come through a referral. So go ahead, look us up on LinkedIn or Twitter or even Facebook, find a mutual friend, have them do an introduction on your behalf. In the early stage of Brink, they didn't have that strong of a brand. That's how we often looked at our deals and got our deal flow. And to this day, it still remains the most consistent for high quality deals that we end up going into deeper diligence with. So feel free to bug a friend to reach out to us if they are connected with us. The second is to demonstrate some sort of traction. If you have, even for hardware, these are the ways that we encourage you to get traction. Do a landing page, do a generic version of what you're building, see how many people sign up for your mailing list, right? Do social media, see how many followers you can get. If you really resonate with people, they're going to want to keep track of what you're up to, right? Until you deliver that product for them. And the third way is just really to see what your team is like. If you're a founder and you haven't found a co-founder yet, if you can't sell someone on what you're building and they get a bunch of equity on it, how can you sell an investor that's just going to take a little bit of equity, right? So see who your team is, get a co-founder, sell an idea to actual people, users, the marketplace, and then come back to us and show us what that looks like, and we'll be excited about it.
I want to touch on two things. So there's been maybe a slight lack of committed mentorship or structured mentorship, and also an ability for you to just go out there and like Mark said, get it done and have a minimum viable product. One good way is not to oversell, but be in a community. Join a community that's open and flat, do one of these events and go talk to each other. You'll never know who you're going to find in these kind of spaces. And if you don't find someone, then talk to us, and we'll find someone for you. I don't know anything. I don't know shit about hardware, so I'm gonna have to be like, hey John, what the hell's going on with this? Like, will this thing work? And likewise, because our ticket size is so small, I'll say, Mark, this is something that is worth looking into. I need your expertise. We'll all want to deal together. But the idea there is cross-pollination. The idea there is get into an environment where, look, everyone's willing and happy to talk to you. So we do it via events. You can do it via education platforms. All these kind of ways where you just get to know people, and through that you will find your money, because people are looking at this. They're just too shy, scared, or whatever it is to speak up and say, look, I have money, come talk to me, and vice versa for entrepreneurs.
Okay, so we're going to open up the questions to the floor. So does anyone has any question that you would like to ask? That gentleman.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Rich Chen. I'm actually not from here. I'm visiting from California this weekend. So thanks for having us. The question I have is, what would you characterize as the one thing that all of us in California and Silicon Valley get wrong about Hong Kong or the ecosystem here?
We're not that tech savvy. It's something. We see a lot of really cool stuff we're not that tech savvy, and generalizing, you can either find a solution that works really, really well for Hong Kong because we have our way of doing things, because we are very efficient, well-developed economy, great infrastructure. So the problems that we will have are quite unique, and it's okay to capture that problem and focus on that market. That'll be a good medium-sized business. But then to copy and paste something over from the Valley may not work. Tech savviness. And secondly, whereas in the Valley you're looking at scaling across 50 states, here you talk about scaling across different countries, different cultures, and different habits. That's something that's a really, really hard pain point. I can speak an example, an e-commerce platform, not to say too much about that, but even payment mechanisms and delivery, people's habits of doing those are different, so you have to find ways to address those. There's no one size fits all, at least for the time being.
I'll just flip it around maybe and say one thing that I wish Hong Kong could adapt from Silicon Valley, given the audience is primarily mostly Hong Kong, is that Silicon Valley entrepreneurs tend to think crazy, like think big and visionary. And on the surface, while that might seem bad because it's by definition risky, hey, at the end of the day, if you're trying to get funding from VC, risky is the nature of the business, right? If they wanted safe plays, they would do bonds and real estate and maybe equities, but if they want high risk and they want to hit a home run, they want you to think big. They want you to be a visionary. And even if you're aggressive and it's a strikeout, like at least the variation, the variability would be a lot higher for them, right? So don't be afraid to think big. That would be my encouragement from someone that is in the Valley.
Yeah, I think probably one thing to make it short, what probably Silicon Valley or California gets wrong about Hong Kong or other places in Asia for matter of fact is a talent pool. I think we're seriously underestimating what can actually be done in this region of the world in terms of execution capability. And I think that has improved dramatically in the last 10 years. On the other hand, I think what Hong Kong can definitely learn from California is, I think, creativity. I think that's probably the one thing we lack in this part of the world.
Any other questions? Floor? Anyone?
You should all be asking questions. You're all here to pitch. You should be super curious.
Gentleman in front.
Yeah, I'm from Europe, just to counterbalance our colleague from the Valley. So I think Europe is in a very interesting middle point, probably, where a lot of creativity and a lot of technical talent has just recently met, so the last 2 or 3 years, a lot of professional funding. And probably what happens is that a lot of the Valley guys started creating that momentum maybe 5 years ago. Skype was one of the triggers, and there's a bunch of others that came after that, and in the companies like Stripe and things like that. It takes a little bit of a combination of external support, which came from the Valley. At that point, there was no other reference, and it takes a little bit of probably the local government, which is very supportive in London, particularly David Cameron, appointed a CTO who actually used to run Facebook. So it wasn't a government person, it was actually a professional person. And I think the whole ecosystem kind of came together also when Google started their campus. Did a very big statement that Google and Facebook have their international headquarters based in London. So a lot of different elements, and I think some of those elements are kind of maturing in Hong Kong, and they're about to get it right. And I think a lot of more people from the Valley, a lot of my friends in the Valley in Europe come here mainly to visit their LPs, but I'm trying to convince them to actually invest in companies here. In this case, I think the advantage of Hong Kong is it's a truly global place where a lot of people that come by or live here are actually globally minded. That's not that easy to find around the world. You can see, London is one, New York, in the Valley, but even the Valley, it's quite provincial in many ways. Except the super high, sophisticated tech community. So what I'm trying to say is Europe is a huge base, particularly London, for connecting with what's going on in the ecosystem there, and maybe actually making it a little bit more accessible for those guys trying to build global companies to Asia, and kind of trying to facilitate a little bit the connectivity between the two ecosystems. So look at Europe, there's a lot of interesting cases there. And well, my question to you guys was basically about what point do you think we're actually in that maturity of the ecosystem? So what is the sequence of events do you think that could actually trigger this place to actually effectively mature a little bit more, maybe what London has done in the last 3 or 4 years?
Tipping point, pretty much.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of factors, and some of them we touched upon. I think it's it's kind of the secret sauce. You can't reproduce a Silicon Valley, you can't reproduce an Israeli community, what's happening there, but you can probably turn it around and look at what has been successful, and it's definitely a combination of government support. So Hong Kong has tried to put on some type of support on the infrastructure side. We've seen what they've done with Cyberport. It's not necessarily a success for various other reasons. And then I think it's creating a community. I think it's like why do certain products work? It's because the consumer wants it, or you create a need for the consumer to want it. Here is the same thing. You have to create a community for to attract investors, and more investors will attract better companies and companies relocating, etc. So it's a virtuous circle. And I think the next steps here, what needs to be created, is really the community. So the channel has to expand. There's going to need to be more incubators, more VC funds, which will attract more talent, more universities. We're seeing the trend of European, US universities starting up, creating business schools here, but it's not enough. We probably have to improve and create probably more tech-oriented universities. It's all that type of community which needs the formation, and it's going to take time. And we'll probably find a twist to it which is more Asian-oriented, and that's great.
I'll open by saying that we love Europe. We have a team from Spain. We have a team from Germany. Great hot hub of talent, and we appreciate, especially like Berlin, these locations for a lot of great entrepreneurs. I'll just add on to what Mark was saying with one other thing by saying that maybe the education system could use a little bit of injection or stimulus of innovation and creativity. It feels as though a lot of the top tier talent focus on finance and law, and that on paper it makes sense. It's high salary, well-paying jobs with good social statuses. But if more attention was paid on the STEMs, science, technology, engineering, and math, maybe we would see a more hub of talent, because I really think Berkeley and Stanford, the engineers that they pushed off were what enabled the tech companies to really create the product that you and I always use today. So if there was a shift in mindset to what kind of majors a child should approach from a younger age, I think that would help.
And to add to that, we absolutely agree that it starts without. Well, I'm not that young. It starts with the younger generation. It starts with the ones that are still in school. To what John's saying, with concentration of talent and capital, with Mark's addressing, you feed this talent from the school system first. So one of the things that we do is get in the university level first. The schools will do their job teaching students about innovation and creativity, and a lot of centers around that do that. And then during the summertime, or even when they just graduate, then they come to the incubator space, the spaces that Mark was talking about. and they learn from startups, and they get a sense of the real world. And so they really get this preview and the taste of what it's like, so their mental state is set. And then they get hungry and determined and creative, and bit by bit you get that secret sauce coming through, and it's sounding quite delicious.
Okay, we'll have one last question. Anyone? We'll just give it to the lady.
Thank you. Following up on that question about lacking creativity in Hong Kong and education, going below the university level and talking about more about the local community, do you think it's a problem that Hong Kong has a culture where creativity might not be encouraged at secondary school level? We're encouraged not to ask questions, not like a Western community might. So do you think that the Hong Kong government needs to do something to combat that in terms of growing into a larger entrepreneurial society, or do you think it just takes time?
I don't think you can combat that. It's never useful when the government needs to impose. Why America works is because they don't impose, or they do so in a different way, which is called lobbying. I think what you have to do is, what the problem is with the school system in Hong Kong, which I'm seeing, is that it's the parents pushing. It's not the government forcing you to do chess lessons and extra Mandarin lessons and extra this and that and violin and whatever. No, it's actually the parents pushing the kids to excel, which is understandable, but that's not gonna enable creativity. And I think it's going to come by itself, I believe, because why they're doing this to acquire the best jobs, get into the best universities, excel at the universities, and get a good job after that. I think what needs to be done is, pointing to what we said before, is probably attracting other type of universities in Hong Kong, which are not just finance oriented, or people who actually say, well, actually, I don't want to send my kids abroad. I would rather have them study here in Hong Kong, and see that probably it's not just about excelling at school, which makes a difference. But that takes time. It's a cultural thing. I don't think it has anything to do with the government.
Yeah, I never want to say anything bad about the government, especially because Brink relies on a lot of them, such as the Best HK. They're a great partner. I do think that the strongest government, so-called government, in a child's life is their parents. So maybe that takes a shift in emphasis of importance to a child, right? And I think at the end of the day, parents want what's best for your kids. So the data needs to come out, the information needs to come out that pursuing direction of innovation and creativity will be better in terms of income return for a child in the long run than doing finance or law. And I think once we have a generation of that to compute and calculate, I think parents will see that in fact doing something related to the sciences and math and big data will actually be more beneficial, and then it will be almost a no-brainer decision for the parents to push their kid in that direction. But because it's so new, maybe it's just risk, right? So if they risk averse, they want the kids to do what works in the society that they understand.
So to do all that, send them here for the summer. and we will, and if not here, any other cohort space. So you got violin, Mandarin, and then startup. So everyone market, push that out. That's the message. This is a real after-school activity or summer internship. Yeah, it doesn't pay, but it's much better than work. I've worked in a law firm for many years. It sucks. Okay? Work in one of these incubators, and I work with guys who get involved in the incubation space.
Okay, thank you very much, judges. So I hope you have learned as much as right? So right now we're going to move to the next part of our event. Which is, that's why we are here for, is our pitching competition. So today you're at the Hong Kong leg of the Tech in Asia tour, which is an 8-city search around Asia to find the best startups to exhibit at our Tech in Asia Tokyo conference. So this will be a 5-minute pitch with 5 minutes Q&A by the judges. And so you'll watch them live, and at the 4-minute mark you'll hear a ding. That's when the finalists will have to finish up so that you can get it done in 5 minutes.